So I don't know if you remember we're talking about this deal. This is that longer barreled one. The Coolfire trainer, of course, but that's on the
Is that the
second version.
Centurion? What is that?
Yeah, this is Centurion. This is the short barrel. But on the second one, you can see the red barrel. I have the other one that I showed in the last live stream. I don't know if
Mhm.
people are popping on yet or not, but it has the gold. But I like the red because the Glock, the cool, all the different barrels have the red designation. So, by the way, I'm going to contact them today. Coolfire trainer. That's the cool kids way of training. So
Good morning, folks. We are on with Mike Monster Seeklander and your pal Rich Brown, and we got a couple of folks joining us already. Please like and hit that share button. We got 12 on already. Let me know where you're from, where you're watching Mr. Seeklander and I at this morning. And if you're a coin member of the American Warrior Society, I want to know about it.
cool. Speaking of cool, folks, if you're on right now, and we'll wait for a few more people to get on, we'll start the safety briefing. This is the Coolfire Trainer, one of the two sponsors of this morning's show. They say it's like dry fire on amphetamines or crack. I don't know, maybe. That probably wouldn't be good to be doing crack and dry fire. Anyways, the Coolfire Trainer is a very unique tool in that it has gives you the ability to take your handgun, whatever handgun model you own. They probably make one for the model you own. You replace the barrel and the recoil spring, and then when you pull the trigger, you get felt recoil. So it's called the Coolfire for a reason. The barrel is actually filled with compressed CO2. If you haven't seen this, I know a bunch of you jumping on have seen this, but this is the Tipman paintball canister that I use for it. Anyways, if you get on Coolfire and check out their models or have any issues, just you can reach out to Eric at Coolfire, but tell him you heard it on the Mike Seeklander, Rich Brown live stream show. So there's a Coolfire trainer. I got to check that out. I won't be able to use that today. I'm actually using one of my future carry guns. This is one of my beautiful Wilson Combat EDC X9s. This one happens to have an optic on it, so I've got a little Holosun optic that I'm still testing. We'll talk about that here in just a second. And of course, our second primary show sponsor is Precision Holsters. So I wanted to bring and show you a couple of the original models. That's the original Wilson Combat branded model. So for those of you that happen to maybe own a Wilson Combat or want the Wilson Combat line, that's the one that Wilson Combat was selling on their website. This is the new Seeklander signature line with the stars and stripes pattern. I'm not sure if you can see the stars and stripes pattern on that. That's pretty darn cool. Anyways, Precision Holsters, Coolfire Trainer. There are some discount codes. All of the discount codes are listed in the show notes. I believe they're in the show notes. If not, we'll put them in the comments. I know Rich can copy and paste them there, or you can go to the American Warrior Show website page. I don't want to take you away from this page right now, though. So, good morning, folks. If you're just joining me, do me a favor, click the share button, click the like button a couple times. If you're one of my members or our members, Coin Member, please throw it in the Coin Members group and some of the other groups, the Training Addicts groups. I know a bunch of you are jumping on. I don't know how many we have on right now, but I will start the safety briefing here in just a moment. But I want to get as many people as we possibly can because the subject we're talking about today is, I think, very important. And of course, that's the concealed carry draw process. I also want to talk about appendix specifically. So this would be more of an appendix type clinic, but if you're a strong side carrier, I will get into strong side and tell you the difference between those two different draw processes. Of course, my name is Mike Seeklander. I'm joined by Mr. Rich Brown. He's somewhere behind the curtains there. There he is. Hey, Rich Brown. And of course, we're talking about the concealed carry draw process today. Before we start, though, if you're gonna follow along this live stream, man, do me a huge favor and make sure you follow all safety rules. Number one, if you have any live ammo or loaded weapons near you, get rid of them right now. If you're going to dry fire or handle guns, please no loaded weapons or live fire stuff with you. If you're not going to handle your gun and maybe you're on duty as a police officer or concealed carry holder, great, that's awesome. Just no handling of your firearm. If you are going to handle your firearm and train with me, please make sure you comply with all safety rules. Make sure you have a safe backstop if you're dry firing. Muzzle direction, trigger finger position, all of the four primary safety rules still apply, even though this is a live stream and you should be dry firing only. Of course, if you're not willing to follow the safety rules, please jump on another live stream, which I wouldn't want you to do, okay? So today we're talking about a few things, but before I do that, if you're interested in what we're talking about, Rich and I said, hey, good morning, coin members. If you don't know what a coin member is, if you want to get a challenge coin, Rich Brown personally will send you a challenge coin along with a card that he and I signed. And a challenge coin is, Rich, do you have your challenge coin? Can we show some people what a challenge coin is? I know some of you on right now have your challenge coins. You're probably looking at them right now. And you can't coin me because my challenge coin is on the arm. Technically, challenge coin, right? Old military tradition. So please, if you're interested in that, check out that link. It's the first link on the show notes after the live stream. Just go back to it, click on it. You can learn more about what a challenge coin is. Okay? So let's start talking about today's subject, and I'm going to have a couple pieces of gear I'm going to put on. This is an empty magazine. You can see a little orange follower, and this is actually I'm going to show you basically my full EDC, my everyday carry. So I'll put my magazine pouch on my strong side. I'm going to verify that I have an unloaded and clear firearm. Okay, I have an unloaded clear firearm. I'm going to go ahead and holster that sucker up and put the holster on. And I may have to do a small camera adjustment. It looks like I need to angle my camera down here. Now, when I carry in the appendix position. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. But right now, you are basically about to see my full everyday carry. So I don't carry, this particular gun right now. I carry a different firearm because I haven't tested this optic. But this is basically how I carry. So if you look at my setup, this is 12 o'clock. My gun is somewhere probably, I would say, right around 2 o'clock in the appendix position. And on this particular setup, I'm wearing, of course, the precision holster and their belt. So what I've done is I've positioned my belt on my body so my gun is in a very stiff part of the belt, right? So that's number one. You're also going to notice that when I'm doing this, I'm wearing a shirt that is what we call a closed front garment shirt, which means that there's not an opening in the front like you would wear with a jacket. And if you're carrying in the appendix position somewhere on the front of your body, you're probably concealing with a closed front type garment versus an open front garment. I've also selected this shirt because, of course, I'm on the live stream. This one is a very concealable shirt. So if you look at my body right now, you probably can't tell that I'm carrying. There's no printing. This shirt happens to be made by 511. My spare magazine is right here. Gun is in the primary spot. Okay. By the way, hey, Rich, how many people we have on? We have 43 live right now. Holy moly, 43 live.
43 live. And this is the coin, Mike.
Oh, there we go. That's a coin, folks. If you want to get your challenge coin. Hey, did we ever answer the question about the coin last time, about the unique feature of the coin? Did we ever get that answered?
Yeah, a lot of people answered.
Oh, they knew what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very, very cool. I'm not going to say it. In order to know what the unique feature of the coin is, you have to get your challenge coin. By the way, you can check it out for 14 days for free. I know we're like, hey, you members are like, oh, they always talk about the American Warrior Society. So should you, because I think it's important. And by the way, the stuff I'm talking about is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you're watching this and you're just jumping on Facebook later or on YouTube later on, tomorrow, the next day, next week, or next month, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. This is a very, very small piece of the puzzle. So if you're wondering about, hey, distance considerations, you're wondering about reloads, you're wondering about proper grip mechanics, of course, we've covered that in some of the previous live streams, but it's also in the full programs, which our coin members have complete and total access to, 100% access to the Defensive Handgun Fundamentals program, which is my favorite program in the members area, the Defensive Handgun Training Program, which is the big, robust program, 3-phase training program, as well as the low-light handgun training program, and all of the performance enhancement series tips. Okay. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Banging my camera stand here.
Mike, we got a question already.
Let's do it. Let's talk.
All right. John says, does carrying appendix more centerline make it more comfortable to sit and move around? And follow up, does carrying centerline provide a tactical disadvantage?
Good question, John. By the way, you can ask that on the members Q&A on Thursday if you're there, by the way, which we will have one. John is one of our members. So in terms of your gun position if you're going to carry an appendix, does more center line make it more comfortable or maybe more defendable, if I understand the question correctly? And I can't tell you that more center line makes the position more comfortable or more defendable. My particular position, so imagine this is my carry holster. It's actually angled. These clips are set up, John, on my holster. So the angle of the gun is slightly inboard, right? So it's not straight up and down, it's slightly inboard. So the gun position is in a place where when I sit down, the majority of the holster and the muzzle of the firearm is right there in the crease of my leg. I think more centered would probably be less comfortable for reasons that are obvious that I won't go into detail. And I can't tell you that a more centered position is any more defendable. If the gun's in front of my body, it's pretty defendable from grabs and whatever else. It doesn't print. Another thing I like about appendix carry is, when you're in the restaurant, you're washing your hands. If I had a strong side holster on right now, I would be showing my gun off to everybody. As I'm washing my hands or doing things or reaching up for a piece of clothing in a store, I would be exposing my gun to everybody. And I'm not saying that strong side is bad. It's just one of those things that I don't like about Appendix. I also, years ago, started carrying Appendix when I was in a seated position a lot, both as an air marshal. I worked a little bit of undercover narcotic stuff. I found the Appendix position or a waistband type position to be a better position. And when I'm at a table or in my vehicle, it's very accessible. Now, that said, just make sure I'm clear on this live stream. I'm not trying to sell anybody on the Appendix position. I'm just talking about the specifics of the Appendix position. Okay. Now, the one thing that I want you to know right away is in terms of the Appendix position itself, one of the key components is the reholstering process, right? So if you're going to carry Appendix, I want you to be in a mode where when you're done shooting a drill or training or whatever else, and you need to reholster, or maybe you go to holster the gun in the morning, that you're following a very deliberate process where I'm sweeping the garment out of the way. I'm going to visually verify that my holster is empty and free, right? So I know that there's not a piece of brass or grass or dirt in the holster. And then I'm going to use a deliberate angle. If you notice the angle of my gun, it's down and away from my body. So I'm going to use a very deliberate angle as I safely reholster the handgun. I'm not going to take the handgun, and I'll demonstrate it with a SIRT pistol. I'm not going to take the handgun and angle the gun this way. Look at the laser, right? I'm not going to holster like this. I'm going to holster with the laser away from my body so I don't point the gun on my body. So one more time from the front. If I'm reholstering the handgun, I'm going to follow a big deliberate process, right, where I'm literally kind of sticking my hips out, right, and keeping the muzzle at this angle so I'm safely holstering the gun up. One more thing about the Appendix. I think we have that question asked right now, by the way. If you're jumping on, hey, good morning, folks. My name is Mike Seeklander, aka, what am I, right? Mike the Monster Seeklander.
Mike the Monster.
If you're joining us, folks, we're talking about the concealed carry draw process. I'll teach you the draw here in a second, but I wanted to kind of feature this show and talk about Appendix carry. Specifically because of, this holster is the holster I'm currently carrying with. This is the Ultra Appendix holster made by Precision Holster. It's designed for Appendix carry. And then the pros and cons, and we can get into the Q&A. We can also do questions about grip. But the important thing about this is I am personally not a fan of carrying a striker-fired handgun in the Appendix position. Now, I'm not saying I would never do it or have never done it. I'm just not a fan of it. So if you're someone that carries a Glock in the Appendix position, or an M&P without a manual safety, or a SIG 320 without a manual safety, okay, that's fine. That's completely your choice. I'm just not a fan of having the gun in that position with a semi-tensioned striker without some sort of manual safety, even though there's probably a firing pin block, right? Like I said, that's a personal choice. Don't take that the wrong way and say, hey, Mike Seeklander says not to do this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you a warning. When I'm carrying a system that has a true manual safety, right? So, in this case, my other carry gun, which I don't have here because it's in my safe and it's loaded right now, has an active beaver tail safety. I leave the beaver tail active and has an active grip safety. If I decided to carry, for example, maybe one of our Wilson Combat Compact 320s, I would elect to have a manual safety on it, like the ones the military ordered. I like the thumb safety. And if the safety is designed properly on a gun, it's very easy to wipe the safety off when you're actually drawing the handgun to shoot it. Okay. So the other option would be to carry with a double action first shot handgun, some sort of Beretta. This is probably a little bit bigger gun that I would typically carry. I'm not saying you couldn't conceal this and carry it Appendix. I know Spencer Keepers, who makes a really great Appendix holster, the Keepers concealment holster, carries a full-size Beretta, or at least he used to. I know several other people that carry full-size Berettas. Beretta PX4 Storm, of course, customized by Langan, will be a great choice. This happens to be a Wilson Combat Beretta. So, okay. Mr. Rich, how are we doing, man? Hey, do me a favor if you would. Please do me a favor. We hit 80 people, I think, last week. My holiday goal is 100 people. So if you just stop for a second, you go to your share, select a group, and then share this in a couple of the groups you're members of, and share it on your page, and ask people to share it. That maybe that'll get us some new views and some folks on that we haven't seen before. So Mr. Rich, what do we have in terms of questions right now? And then I'll talk about the draw process.
Yeah, Eric says, could that Ultra Appendix holster also be used strong side 3 o'clock?
Yeah, Eric, so to answer your question, I don't know if I have my other holster in here. I should have brought it like an idiot. I didn't. This one is designed for appendix on the front side. It could, if you adjust the clips, you could wear this on the strong side, but they have another holster called the it's not the Ultra Appendix, it's the Ultra holster. It's similar. It has actually a leather backing. It for some people that carry strong side say it's the most comfortable holster they own. They have another holster that I would recommend that's probably better than this for inside the waistband strong side carry. Precision also makes an outside the waistband strong side carry. I've never carried with that one. Matter of fact, I don't have one of those. They're supposed to be sending me one sometime soon, so I can't comment on it. So John Marcus, if you're watching this, get off your butt and send me one of those holsters. But no, this one is better off worn in the appendix position. Okay.
So, yeah, we got a question here from our good friend David Garrett out there in South Carolina. He says, so are you recommending thumb and grip safeties, or are you okay with thumb only?
So in answer to your question, for example, this particular model has only a thumb safety, David. It doesn't have an active grip safety. It has a thumb safety. I'm okay with a manual thumb safety if you're carrying a single action firearm or even a striker fired system. You know, for example, the XDM has a grip safety on it, but no thumb safety. I don't believe they make a thumb safety variant for that line. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone. I would prefer to have a thumb safety versus a grip safety, because a thumb safety, I have to draw the handgun out of the holster and manually disengage the safety. But more importantly, I can put the safety back on before reholstering, which is probably the most important thing for me, so the grip isn't pulled. Now, if you have a system that has a grip safety like an XDM or a 1911, we can take our thumb during the reholstering process and move the thumb to a position where the grip safety is now active as we're reholstering, which might add a safety step to that particular procedure. Once again, if you're just jumping on, that reholstering process should be deliberate and away from your body. It should not come toward your body. And I know that doesn't look real tactical, but if you're holstering, guess what? It's not tactical. You're not trying to be tactical. You're just trying to put the gun in the holster safely so you can do whatever else you need to do that, if that makes sense. Okay. One more thing about that: if you are carrying a handgun, you know that you're completely confident with in terms of its safeties, that's fine. I know Rich Brown carries appendix. He carries with the Glock, I think. Rich, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right. But
he also has what's called a striker control device, which means that there's a small plate on the back strap. This is not an actual Glock. On the back area of his Glock, the right back side of the slide, that lifts up when you pull the trigger. It actually moves. It's a pretty neat device. So he thumb checks his striker control device when he's holstering, and if the trigger is being pulled, that device would move. So when you hold it down, you can't pull the trigger. Right, Rich? That's the way.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so that's why he chooses to carry with that that Glock in that position. Okay. Mr. Rich, what else do we have as far as questions?
Anything I got a question here from our good friend John. He says, is there a tactical reason not to watch your gun back into the holster?
So if you heard John's question, folks, you know, the process of actually watching the gun back in the holster, there may be a case where there may be cases, yes, where I'm still, maybe you had to defend yourself, you've been in active shooting, right? You know, you're covering the suspect, you hear sirens, you realize the police are coming, laying the gun down is not an option. Keeping it in your hand may not be a smart option. So I may at this point in time keep my head and eyes on the thread as I holster, right? That may be the case. I would tell you, John, in a real life situation, that would be your choice based on the circumstances. In almost all training situations, I like doing a quick check of the holster visually, especially if you're moving around or rolling around or shooting in a position where brass may get down there. It's probably most important if you are carrying a striker fired system that can be fired if you holster with your shirt in the trigger guard or a piece of brass in the trigger guard. But I would say that in some real life circumstances, there may be a reason to keep your head and eyes on the thread or in the thread area as you're safely holstering in the appendix position. Good question.
Mike, I'll put a link to the striker control device. We have no financial relationship with Tom over at Tau Development, but he makes an amazing product, and I've been using it, and I highly recommend it.
Cool.
Elke has a question, sir. He says, so to be clear, reholstering is where your concern lies with carrying appendix striker fire, ? Not worried it'll go off once holstered?
Yeah, a great question. So yeah, my main concern is the reholstering process. Assuming that I have a good holster that's purpose designed to be carried in the appendix position, right? That fully covers. Well, I can't holster with this gun because it's not made for this sort of pistol. That fully covers the trigger guard, right? And the design is good enough where the gun can't be fired. I know we've seen a lot of us have seen the video when the guy holsters up a handgun, that he bends over to grab something, the gun goes off. Here's the deal: there are a lot of crappy holsters out there. There are probably some guns that have such light firing systems, triggers, or whatever else that you're just adding risk to that carry position. But yeah, to answer your question, Alki, my main concern is the reholstering process, especially for those that are doing it fast and are not doing it very deliberate and safely. Okay.
Hey, thanks to the 56 folks that are watching us live. Please like and share. And Mike, that's all the questions. Let's get into it.
All right, so just real quick, let's talk about the draw process. So first of all, the first thing that I want you to think about in terms of your draw process is when you should draw in terms of distance, right? If you haven't seen last week's live stream show about distance considerations and close quarter shooting positions, you really need to go back and watch that, or go to YouTube and watch that. It's really some critical information. And when I say that, folks, it's important that you understand that your decision to draw is probably based off of stimulus. So if you set a target up at 3 yards away, right, on the range, and you get your hands up and you practice your draw process at 3 yards, you're myelinating the process of, okay, if I'm at this distance, I have this distance awareness in my brain, I can draw the handgun and get it out and get into the fight. I would tell you that might be too close to draw the handgun, right? If you're drawing the handgun, generally speaking, I would tell you that I would like you to be at a distance where you have the time to do a full two-handed grip and draw of the handgun, right? How much time does that take? Well, it may take 2 seconds for most of you. Matter of fact, I would tell you that most of you probably in a concealed carry situation, real life, it's windy, it's rainy, it's cold, you're wet, something else, not perfect, not the, okay, I'm set up with the perfect shirt for the Instagram draw and I'm going to rip. Okay, not that. I'm talking about real life circumstances where you have to truly deliberately sweep the garment out of the way. Most of you could probably do it in 2 seconds. If you get down to the 1.5 second range, then you're doing really good. You're doing very good. If you're under 1.5 seconds, let's say 1.3, 1.2, 1 second from real deal concealment, that's an exceptionally good draw process. You're really, really good. So think about the amount of distance you need to buy you that time. So if your draw process is 1.5 seconds, or your draw process is 2 seconds across the board, we need to have that distance. So for most people, the threat should be 5 or 6 or 7 yards away. Couple key rules though. When in doubt, get it out. If you have the legal reason to do so, when in doubt, get it out. Don't brandish your firearm. That's not the advice I'm giving you. But the point is, if you are doing this deal, make sure that you're doing this in a manner that is justified. But hey, why would I draw the handgun versus get the handgun out in the first place and have the ability to communicate and talk and whatever else? If you really think you're going to need the gun, probably should have it in your hand. Okay, if you truly think you're going to need it. If you're not sure if you're going to need it, then you need to follow a bunch of other justifications. Okay, now in terms of the draw process, I want to work from 3 positions, and I want to remind you of some key things. Number one, when one hand moves, both hands move, right? This is something that I'm big on for me. And if you look at my hands where they're relaxed in my sides, if I go to draw the handgun, you're going to see the other hand move. Now, when I'm drawing the handgun for my appendix position, I'm using a strong hand sweep. So let's talk about that first. If you are carrying strong side or appendix with a closed front garment, you're going to have to sweep the garment out of the way. So you may be wondering, well, Mike, why don't you rip and grip the handgun, right? The rip and grip is a fast method where folks are taking the handgun, they're ripping it out of the way, they're drawing the handgun, which is really fast. I mean, I understand that. Matter of fact, it might be a tenth or two tenths faster than a strong side sweep. When I sweep, I'm actually going to sweep with my strong side, and I'm going to do that by reaching inside the garment. There's a reason for that as well. Okay, I'm reaching inside the garment. I'm sweeping the garment out of the way. The other hand may very well assist during the draw process, but it's not truly assisting to the point where I need it. For example, if I'm in a situation where I'm searching the dark parking lot, I thought I heard a noise out there, and I realized, okay, there's the threat. I can still draw the handgun with one hand only. And that's the only problem I have with the ripper and grippers is a lot of folks that are doing the fast rip and grip. Well, what if you've got a flashlight out, right? How are you going to manage that, right? Now, in terms of the shirt sweep itself, let's talk about this, and we'll see if we have some questions. There are a couple ways you can do it, right? So if I'm doing a strong hand sweep, I'm trying to get my hand inside the garment. So I'm just grabbing the garment and getting my fingers somewhere inside of it. I will tell you that's not always as seamless as it would seem. There are some folks that just literally reach down, they grab the shirt and they rip it out of the way and they draw the handgun, right? Which is an okay method. What I found with the rip and grip is when we rip and grip the shirt out of the way, sometimes when we do this, sometimes we don't get the shirt all the way out of the way, right? So sometimes that shirt is most of the way out of the way, and then I grab a portion of my shirt and I got to fight the shirt, right? So what I'm trying to do, if possible, is I'm trying to reach down, grab that shirt. I want to get my fingers inside of it, right? So if my fingers are somewhat inside of it, now I can sweep the shirt up. And if you look at the path, I'm going to draw a C with the opening facing down around the gun. So I'm drawing a big C around the handgun, and then I'm going to drive my thumb up the back of the gun, right? So I'm drawing a big C, and I'm driving my hand and attacking the gun from the rear. So you may say, well, Mike, why do that versus just take the shirt and rip it out of the way, which I can pull that off. The problem is there may be a point in time where I am so close to someone, their body is compressed up against me, right? I've wrapped the arm up. I'm in a close quarter situation. And here's the deal. I want my draw to be consistent across the board, no matter what technique I choose. So if I'm standing here, I want to be able to draw the handgun, right? If I'm wrapped up with someone, I want to be able to take the shirt and rip it out from between us, establish that handgun in the proper firing grip and fires. I want it to be as consistent as possible. If I'm in a situation where I'm searching that parking lot and I see a threat, I want to be able to draw the handgun out of the holster as consistently as possible. And that the only way I found is reaching down inside the garment itself. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, you're going to have to be selective about your carry setup, your gear, right? This shirt sweeps really easy. It allows me to cheat on live video, which is what I'm doing. It's an easier shirt to sweep than some of my thinner, lightweight t-shirts. So when I go to my shirt rack, right, and I put a t-shirt on and I put the holster or whatever on and I go to sweep the shirt out of the way, if I can't sweep the shirt, it's not a functional sweep, then I will typically get rid of that t-shirt, right? So I like a little bit more of a heavyweight shirt. So in this case, the beauty on this color and the way it sits is actually the only printing, you might see a little bit of printing right there, but it's not printing a lot. Like you wouldn't look at me and say, that guy's carrying a gun. Although I tell you, most people don't notice it, okay? So when one hand moves, both hands move. Let's get back to principles. Okay, no matter where the hands come from, the hands are relaxed at sides and you're spontaneously in an attack. Okay? Maybe the hands are coming up. We're like, hey, back up, man. Back, get away from me. The hands are already up. You're building that fence position that you can defend your head, that you could strike from, right? When both hands move, they move at the same time. And when you're seeing me do this, you may very well see me utilize the support hand to pin the shirt up. But understand, when I practice my draw, I don't need the other hand, right? I'm using it in this case, but I don't need it based on how I'm sweeping the garment. So one more time, big sweep, finger switch. Notice how the thumb is keeping the shirt up and out of the way. So now I can attack the gun from the rear, establish my grip, chop on the trigger guard, and then fire my shots, okay? So when you're working this, I would suggest working from 3 positions, right? So let's maybe do a few draws where the hands are relaxed at your sides. So you sweep and grip the handgun out of the way. Boom, dry fire your shot, okay? Maybe the second position is where the hands start to come up. Okay, reach down, grab the garment, fire your shot, okay? And the third position is what I call the cheater position. I try to teach my students that, when in doubt, get the gun out, okay? When possible, start the sweep. When in doubt, get the gun out. When possible, start the sweep. So I may go from a position where I've told you, hey, back up, man. Back up, right? Back up, will you? So what I've done here is I've kind of sneaking this hand down. I've grabbed my shirt because I know in the draw process, this is what I'm probably going to screw up. especially if the wind's blowing and it's rainy out, it's cold, it's wintertime. This is what I have to get right. I have to get the shirt off of the gun in order to draw it, right? So I may use the cheater draw. I'm like, hey, back up. When I decide to draw the handgun, this hand has to come back, right? So it's going to establish that position so I can very quickly build my two-handed grip, okay? So, sorry I'm talking so fast, but there are a lot of details here, and I want to get them all out in this live stream because I know we'll probably have some questions, okay?
Yeah, Mike, we got some questions here.
Okay.
We'll start with a comment from our esteemed friend and colleague, Dr. T.C. Fuller. He says, judgment is critical, though rarely trained skill. If you look at just about every high-profile self-defense case that has hit the media in the last 5 years, it has an element of poor judgment under stress. Food for thought.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Mr. Alan Kelly, also my good friend up in Free, Virginia, says, are you using the thumb against the body once you get the garment up and then traveling down to the grip?
Yeah, great question. So let me actually, folks, let me do a little bit. And I know you're going to enjoy this because now I'm really close to camera and very attractive. Very handsome man staring at the camera right now, right? So, Alan, yeah, when I'm sweeping the garment, right, I've reached inside the garment. Okay, I've got a 4-finger hook. So, however you grab it initially, and I want to reach my fingers inside it. I want to get a finger or two inside of it if I can. When I sweep to the top of the position, then I'm going to switch, right, okay, to my thumb. So I call this the finger switch. So the backs of my knuckles are dragging across my body, and then I switch to my thumb. Okay, so now my thumb is holding the shirt out of the way. So no matter what I do, I could do this nice and slow and deliberate, and there will be no shirt grab, right? So if I get the shirt up and out of the way and switch to the thumb, I could do it nice and slow, and the shirt never gets in the way, right? Because I've taken the time to pin the shirt out of the way the entire time. The shirt is held up, out of the way, so I can drive the thumb down in there and attack the gun from the rear. Once again, we're always attacking the gun from the rear, establish my grip, and then fire those shots. So yes, I'm using the thumb to do that process. Okay.
And Tony has a great question, Mike. He says, do you draw and dry fire from the high ready or the high pectoral position? And what dictates whether you go immediately to a full grip, I guess, or a thumb pectoral position?
Okay, so great question. So let's talk about the draw process. So we established this in the beginning of the live stream. I want to reestablish it. If we're drawing the handgun, we should be drawing it at a distance where we can appropriately draw and get a two-handed grip on the handgun, right? So Tony, if I'm doing this, I'm at a distance where my goal is to draw the handgun and get a two-handed grip on the gun as quickly as possible. So when I'm actually drawing the handgun is going to come directly out of the holster. I'll show you the draw from the front and the side, directly out of the holster, in as much of a straight line toward the actual thread as possible. So from the side, you'll look at my draw process. I'm drawing the gun and going straight toward the target. I am not wasting any time doing this. That's a waste of time. Watch it again. This is a big waste of time. So the proponents that may say, well, we need to draw and go to a pectoral index are saying, well, if we have to fight from a close quarter position, think about that. You just violated rule number 1, that I'm not going to draw the handgun unless I have the appropriate distance to draw the handgun. And you got to trust me on this, folks. I don't do much gun grappling these days, but when I did more of it, I mean, you saw the draw that I just did. I can draw the handgun, pretty fast. But more often than not, if I'm already in the foot, the fouled up tangle, too close to the person, more often than not, I get my gun grabbed or my draw fouled, right? So I'm not drawing the handgun unless I have the appropriate distance to do so. And I'm not saying you can't draw the handgun at close range, but there's some other factors we want to put in play. Maybe combatants, boom, boom, draw the handgun, right? Maybe I've wrapped the person up, rubbed the gun on my head, swung, boom, wrapped the arm. Now I'm drawing the handgun, right? And shooting from a close quarter position.
So Mike, just to make sure I understand this. So you're saying you either have the distance or positional control and or dominance to do so.
Distance, position, control, or dominance. We always talk about in the defensive handgun material, the whatever is going to buy us a time. It may be an obstacle rich, it may be distance, it may be positional dominance, like the arm drag that we do on a regular basis, or positional dominance. Dominance could also be a position where I've had effect on your face to the point where you do this, right? And if you're doing this because you just got punched 2 times, then I bought the time to draw the handgun. But what I'm not doing is drawing to, I'm not doing a false close quarter position here, and I'm not wasting time there. If I'm drawing the handgun into a two-handed grip where I'm going to extend the handgun, I'm doing it as fast as I can, because time on target, meaning when that first shot goes bam, that's what I want to do. I want to accomplish that first shot on target. Okay, did I answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure did.
Okay.
And John says he has a challenge with establishing the grip because of the relationship of the grip to the top of the belt.
So John, in term, I don't know, John, I'm not sure John probably.
Can I help you a little bit?
John has an ultra appendix, maybe, I'm not sure, but hey, John, so here's the deal. If you look at, give you a little light here, right? If you look at the grip height, because I know my light isn't great, the grip height of my holster, right? The holster grip, or the handgun grip, is about an inch above the belt, right? So I've taken these belt clips and I've adjusted them so it holds the gun in the right position. So when I draw the handgun, there's enough space for my hand to grab the grip of the handgun. Now, I wouldn't want the handgun to be adjusted too high on the belt, because it makes it a lot easier for the handgun to be flipped out if someone is grabbing it, right? But the way this holster is positioned, if you look, it's all the way up against my body, right? It's pushed against my body. The holster does this to the gun, and it turns it into my body as well, okay? But you may adjust your gun position, okay? Mr. Rich Brown, what else do we have as far as questions?
Yeah, Giles is asking me a question. He says, do you carry the appendix position? I absolutely do, and I have since probably 1986.
Yep. And Rich carries a Glock Pistola with a striker control device. Hey, how many folks do we have on? Did we hit 80 or 90?
We hit 61 a moment ago, Mike. We're currently at 51.
61.
I got another question for you. Jesse says he has a buddy that is new to carrying concealed, and he has elected to use a shoulder holster. Any of these tips help him?
Well, of course, in terms of a shoulder holster, all of these principles can help him. But if you can imagine a guy carrying a gun in the shoulder holster, right? So I'm going to do a brief introduction to shoulder holster draw, and then maybe we'll cover it in a future show, because not many people do it for a lot of reasons. Number one, if you're carrying a shoulder holster and you're facing a threat, where's the gun? The gun is always where? It's right there in front of you, right? So if you're facing me and you're the bad guy and you just reach what's very easy to grab, it's like, hey, I just put a holster on that makes it very easy for you to carry. I know Miami Vice makes it look cool. Got it. Shoulder holster really cool. Miami Vice TV. But it's very hard to protect that gun, okay? Number two, when you draw the handgun, most folks that are drawing a handgun out of their shoulder holster do this, right? Watch it again. There's the laser. Oh my gosh. So I'm pointing the gun on my body. So I used to teach, when we're doing a shoulder holster draw, we basically hug ourselves, right? Draw the handgun out, gun comes down, and indexes like this. So when you draw the handgun, right, hand comes up, second hand comes up here, so I can draw the handgun, right, build my grip, and not ever position the other hand where I'm covering myself. That's really important they understand that. Now, if it's a vertical shoulder holster, right, that's a little bit easier to defend, but once again, we're having to reach over. We take our shoulders, we push them together like this, right, reaching over, drawing the handgun out. It has to come out and down, because it's very difficult to have the other hand in a position index. It's a long, big movement to draw the handgun, and I haven't seen many people that carry a shoulder holster that are very fast and or don't cover themselves when they draw the handgun. Not a great position to carry in my opinion, unless you're maybe riding a motorcycle all of the time, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're hunting. I know a lot of hunters carry shoulder holsters. That makes sense. But for a defensive purpose, maybe not the greatest selection.
You're going to spook a lot of people on the range when you start carrying shoulder holsters.
Yeah, you're pointing the gun right behind you the entire time as well. So,
Rob says IDPA is considering appendix carry for matches. Do you agree with their thought of removing your holster from your pants, holstering your gun, and then putting the holster back in place?
So I have some knowledge of that based on the survey they put out. We talked about this, I think, last week. I'm in kind of discussion with them, but they have not given me permission to share my discussion points. So I'm sorry. I'm not going to answer that question. So I just want to, I want to stay tight to IDPA, and if I talk about anything live, I want to get their permission to talk about their decision-making process before I share it on the live stream.
And John says, in the process of sitting, do you adjust the holster/gun so it doesn't dig in?
Nope, no. So this is actually a carry holster carry gun. This is a slightly different holster than I carry in my other gun because this one has a shield back strap basically, and this is cut for the optic, right? So this is exactly where and how I carry it. When I have the holster on in the right position, okay, I'm going to put the sucker back on. These are pretty difficult to get on and off by design. If your holster comes off really easy, it will probably come off in a fight, right? But this is the position. Slide it basically down. So right now the holster is sitting kind of in the crease on my leg. So if I were to be in a seated position, I'm not going to sit on the camera today. No, I don't adjust it at all. It's very comfortable. But it's not a full-size barrel either. It's not a full-length barrel and full-size gun. It's a compact gun, which is why I carry a compact gun. So no, I don't.
Great. At Alan Kelly, of course, he was a state trooper up in Virginia for like 3 decades. And Alan says, I carry Appendix due to the access in a vehicle much better than duty gear from my LE days.
Yeah. Well, man, I tell you, strong side, there's nothing there. Make sure we close this out the right way. I'm not poo-pooing on strong side carry position. I'm just saying there's some limitations with strong side carry position that the Appendix doesn't have. There's some pros and cons and limitations that the Appendix position has as well. And in our summary, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So cool, man. Hey, if you haven't clicked the share button, do it. Maybe in the tail end of the show, maybe we'll bring a bunch of people in and hit that 100 goal, maybe by next week. If I don't hit 100, Rich, then my Christmas present will never be met. I'm so sad.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Tony says, a friend of mine several years ago who belongs to a 3-letter agency used to say, carrying concealed is comforting, not necessarily comfortable.
I agree. There's nothing fun about this having this thing stuck in your waistband. Although I will tell you, it's fun to know I have a tool to solve problems that a lot of folks out there, like literally thousands and thousands of gun owners, choose not to do. Here's a real truth. Most gun owners don't train. Those 56 of you that are watching right now probably train and practice on a regular basis. The other 100 million probably don't train or practice, right? Number 2, most of them don't carry on a regular basis because it's uncomfortable. You have to do some work. You have to have something stuck in your waistband. You have to feel like your pants are being pulled down. It's not fun. It's not comfortable. But knowing that the tool that you might need to solve the problem is at your disposal is very comforting. I like that word. So.
Eric says, in your experience, Mike, how much slower is a strong side draw versus Appendix, assuming the same one-handed technique is used? 1, 2, 3/10 of a second or more?
Yeah, good question. Eric, I would tell you they're very, very, very close. Because when I'm sweeping the Appendix position or shirt, if I were carrying strong side, Eric, I wouldn't reach this far in the front of my body. I would reach, closer toward where the gun is, and I would sweep and grip. And I think that with a real carry method, this real deal concealment, the times are going to be very, very similar. Appendix may be a 10th or 2 faster. It is slightly faster, but it's not measurable. And those that are watching right now they're still with us, I think we base a lot of our decision making on tenths of seconds. A lot of us decided to compete as well. Tenths of seconds are important in competition. Tenths of seconds are important in a defensive competition as well, but they're not your end all be all select all. That's not the only thing you need to think about. You need to think about all of the other factors, the context, the concealability, the retention, your ability to draw the handgun in all kinds of weather, your ability to defend the handgun from someone trying to grab it, your ability to draw the handgun in a fight. If I think if that's the same Eric might be in that circumstance. I'm not sure what Eric that is. But anyways, we're going to think about things more so than just pure speed. But to answer your question, the strong side full position, it might be a hair slower than the Appendix position, assuming we're drawing the same way and not doing a rip and grip, right? Okay.
Johnny has an excellent point, Mike. He says knowing when to draw will buy you more time than how to draw.
Completely agree. Yeah, we talked about the context and some of the decision-making factors in the very beginning of this live stream. And by the way, for the record, I can't tell anybody watching right now when you should draw your handgun. Only you can determine when you should draw your handgun. But what I can tell you is in your practice to make sure that you're getting some stimulus and response where you're visually at a distance from the target when you're practicing, that would make sense to draw the handgun into a two-handed grip. Right. If you haven't watched the distance considerations live stream that Mr. Rich and I did last week, it's really a good show. So
Mike Chester says, do you always wear a t-shirt under your outer shirt?
great question. I don't always wear a compression shirt. By the way, this is the whole compression shirt thing. I actually, Spencer Keepers, I think he was one of the first people that I heard about it. I also, the late Todd Green was a big Appendix carry instructor before Appendix carry was cool. Pretty sure he promoted an undershirt. So an undershirt, a compression type shirt, for me is not as comfortable, but it makes the draw process much more seamless because there's a lot less friction. It allows me to sweep and get my hand between the gun and my shirt. Where if I just had my skin, I was on the range the day before yesterday, and at the end of my session, I just stand and I do a few concealed carry draws. I put my carry gun back on, and I had a normal t-shirt, and I had my bare skin. It was a little bit humid or rainy out, so I was kind of wet. And it's when you're sweeping, you're driving that hand down your belly and kind of ripping hair out and stuff like that. So no, this does two things. This gives me a little bit cleaner presentation on the live stream video, and it's a little bit easier to draw from. So I don't always do that, but I would tell you that I recommend it. I'm actually looking at trying to find or get built basically, I don't know, maybe Rich, almost like a girdle, like a compression fitting center line. They would go under my pants, right? If someone knows someone that can make this, then maybe to the bottom of my chest area. So I have this slick, tight fitting undergarment that keeps some space between my body and the gun, but it's not a full shirt. Like this is a full cut-off sleeve shirt. I don't love it. You can see it's got all these black marks because I've had it on a lot of different classes. So when I teach, oftentimes I'll wear that, mainly also for the live stream politeness of trying not to give everybody the big belly flash and show them, hey, my belly. So
we appreciate that, Mike. I think I speak for everybody watching.
Sure you do, buddy. Sure you do. All right, man. What else do we have? Any other questions or comments?
No, not at all.
Okay. So here's the deal, folks. Let's go ahead and summarize this real quick and then do the last maybe a couple questions. Today we talked about the concealed carry draw process, specifically the appendix position. I want to remind you of a few things. Number one, if you're going to draw the handgun, both hands have to move. Now, if you're carrying appendix and you're watching the tail end of this, once again, why is Mike Seeklander a fan of the strong hand sweep? Because the strong hand sweep gives me the ability to draw the handgun without using the other hand, right? If you are a ripper and gripper, consider practicing at least some strong hand sweeps. So maybe you're really fast in gripping and gripping the handgun out of the holster. Fine, go ahead and do that. Film some videos, post on the Facebook or the Instagram. Awesome, but make sure you have the ability to grab the handgun with only one hand, right? Whether you're in a fight or a low light circumstance or whatever else, that's why. The second thing is, once again, I talked about why I like this, reaching inside the garment versus grabbing the garment and ripping it out of the way. Reaching inside the garment is a more consistent method for me to sweep the garment versus ripping it. And sometimes I grab a shirt like that, which I don't like. Okay, so that's why I do that. When you're drawing, don't forget a couple principles. When one hand moves, they move. They get into action very quickly. I do cheat a little bit. I use my support hand when I'm doing a two-handed draw process, right? But I can also have my flashlight out and draw without having that other hand in action. So I don't need, both hands to draw the handgun. I just need to get a good sweep out of the holster. Okay, now when I'm doing this, summary point, don't forget, thumb attacks from the rear. Once again, backs of the fingers, finger switch, attack the gun from the rear, draw the handgun, fire your shots. My support hand is always in a position where I can index under the trigger guard. Of course, we talked about that last week or the week before in grip trigger sights. If you haven't watched that particular live stream, go back and check that out. I'm talking fast because Rich Brown has some sort of thing he has to go to, so I'm trying to get all of these details out. By the way, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you're a member, you have all of the Appendix carry, the carry optics series, and the defensive handgun training program. You can go back in and watch some of this material as much as you want in the members vault.
Mike, we got a couple of questions here. Denny says, will you post a discount code for precision holsters? I just put it in there. It's linked to the American Warrior Show. If you go to that page, look on the right-hand side, got discount codes to all of today's sponsors.
Cool. Anything else?
Yes, sir. We have one more. Billy Miller says, are you seeing any police academies training Appendix for off-duty carry?
That's a good question, Billy. I think Tulsa PD might actually do a clinic on off-duty carry where they talk about the pros and cons of Appendix. I know a couple major agencies that are doing. I think it's more of like an off-duty carry considerations, and if you choose to carry Appendix, here's some things about it. Here's some pros and cons, the safe reholster process. But I don't know that for a fact because I haven't done those classes. So.
And Mike, looks like the final question is from John, and he has a question that I get beat up with every single day on the messenger and email. He wants to know, when is your 2022 schedule coming out?
Next week. It'll be out next week. Probably late next week. And me too. Everybody's asking. Trust me, as soon as I have all of my you can see, I don't know if you can see on the camera. You can see all of the entire year calendar laid out on the back there, right? So that's it. It's in process. It probably won't be out till next week. Some of the classes will be out in the next couple of days. I'll be able to release them, but the rest of them will be out next week. So after Christmas, get on there and you can start signing up. Okay.
That's it, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Hey, all right, folks. Hey, in summary, we talked about the concealed carry draw process, the strong side, as well as Appendix. Today was more of an Appendix focus. I specifically talked about the safety considerations of maybe the gun you should choose, how you look at, the holster you pick if you pick and decide to carry the Appendix position. We also talked a lot about the reholstering process and how you need to learn reholstering. If you haven't seen this, if you're just jumping on, go back, watch that part of the video. It's probably one of the most important parts. Of course, in summary, when one hand moves, they both move. Think about distance considerations. Think about contacts. Make sure you understand exactly when you can draw the handgun versus not draw the handgun. And of course, to get good at any of this stuff, you got to practice, right? But it doesn't take a single dime or a single minute of your time on the range because you can practice your draw process. You can practice all your manipulations. Guess what? In the comfort of your home, just do it in a safe area. Unload a handgun, no live ammo, pick an area, get your 50. That's Rich and I decided we wanted to challenge you to get your 50. That means 50 draws. 50 reloads, 50 whatever, but let's start with draw process. Get your 50 for the next 5 days in a row and see how much you improve on your draw process. Don't forget, last but not least, do perfect repetitions. You can't do sloppy stuff. If you do sloppy stuff, you're going to ingrain sloppy stuff. That's the bottom line, okay? And I'm going to ask one thing. If you're not a Coin member and you haven't checked out some of those things, full programs, check them out. Trust me, you will be happy to be part of that culture of Coin members. And share this. If you're watching this today, tomorrow, yesterday on YouTube, next year, give it a share. If you learn something, I know it's long worded. I know this is a long form video, not a short 1 minute tip on Instagram or YouTube. I get that. But if you learned something and enjoyed it, do me a favor, click that share button before you get out. Rich, any closing comments from you, sir?
Just hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and enjoy this time with your family, folks, and be safe. That's all I got.
Cool, folks. Merry Christmas. Don't forget Rich Brown's live show Friday morning, 7:30. Join him. I'm not sure who his guest is, but it's an awesome show. It's more of a Q&A, interview-style show. Join him live. Do your reps. Have a Merry Christmas. And until then,